such a beautiful ceremony as ours. We pick and choose the candidate, we interview him, we ballot him, and then admit him ceremonially with a prayer and make him a brother among us. We perform a ceremony like King Solomon may have done in his temple at Jerusalem, because, like him, we hold our meetings in a temple. We begin our meeting with an invocation to the Almighty to assist us in all our undertakings. So let us start our meeting today with the same solemnity. Brethren, the ceremony of initiation, the first degree in the craft, is designed to introduce the candidate to the first stage of a system of knowledge and self discipline, which, if faithfully followed up and lived out in his personal life, will clarify and transform his mind from its natural state of darkness to one of light. That is, expanded, clear, seeing spiritual consciousness. It is therefore not a ceremony of initiation. It is therefore called a ceremony of initiation because it is meant to mark the beginning of a new order of personal life and consciousness. It might equally be called one of regeneration and rebirth. It is a ceremony provided to give an answer to what the candidate professes to be the most predominant wish of his heart. If you remember what the candidate says when he has taken the solemn obligation and he is asked by the worshipful master, "What is the predominant wish of your heart?" He answers, "Light." The light that will transform his life from its natural state of darkness to one of light. A wish well expressed by the oldest prayer in the world. From the unreal, lead me to the real. From darkness, lead me to light. From the mortal, bring me to immortality. The presence or absence of this aspiration of wanting to be real, of being led to the light and other things, is in a candidate should be the test of his fitness for initiation. The candidate's attitude should be one of definite, intelligent expectation of spiritual good to come to him, and of positive aspiration and heart hunger for it. Equally definitely, it must not be for any material or social advantage, nor a merely negative state of curiosity and uncertainty as to what is to be found in the craft. For every candidate, the initiation ceremony implies that whatever academic or scientific learning he possesses, whatever philosophical idea he holds, whatever religious creed he possesses before his initiation, there remains something more for him yet to learn, and to which the craft helps to lead him. The next part was a little too highbrow, so I have modified it as follows. This does not mean that he will necessarily find that most of his thoughts and convictions are false. On the other hand, he will find that some of his thoughts and convictions are correct and may even help him to improve on them. He will learn to modify or correct some of his convictions which may appear false. And if he is not able to do this, he may be blocking the light that Masonry offers him. If therefore he is to profit from the life to which the craft leads him, he must be prepared to surrender. He must be prepared to keep his mind open and fluid to make such surrender and occasion warrants. We all tend to feel so certain of ourselves, so wise in our conceits, and too often are unaware that we have much to unlearn before we can become truly unteachable. But from the earliest time, the candidate for initiation has been called a child and taught to regard himself as such. To turn to the ceremony itself, up to the year 1700, formally compiled rituals did not exist. The working was transmitted orally. There was no such thing as a memorized form mechanically repeated with such word perfectness and dignified elocution as may be, but an extempore pronouncement of real power and spiritual efficacy, performed by a master possessing complete understanding of what he did and able to adapt and amplify the ceremony in accordance with the culture, intelligence, and probable requirements of a properly prepared candidate. The actual form of words employed was the least important about the ceremony. What is far more of consequence is the ability of the initiator and those cooperating with him to infuse such spiritual fervor and emotional momentum that what is done and said over the candidate shall penetrate his heart and mind and awaken his soul, a result requiring that the candidate be a fit and proper person and properly prepared for it. The candidate is called to adapt himself gradually to the new conditions and to become transformed by a slow but steady renewing of his mind and outlook. Summing up, we see that the examination of the ceremony is as follows. The first half is designed to restore the light in the spiritual sense to the candidate who seeks light from his heart and comes prepared in mind and person to receive it. The second is to teach him who has been brought to that light how to retain it so that he may never relapse into his former darkness. On being initiated, a candidate is being given a glance into supranatural light, but only a first glimpse into wider and permanent vision. The ceremony dramatizes in a few swift episodes and pregnant words the apprentice stage of the spiritual life. It inculcates that the increasing self purification and discipline of his material nature, the light of that spiritual sun which burns and blazes at his own center and which has now for the first time appeared about his conscious horizon, will manifest in ever increasing power. As that sun rises and higher within him, so will his darkness within him become correspondingly dispelled, and his materialism spiritualized, and his personality transformed. The apprentice stage of masonry is therefore one of purification, self-education, and self-control, which every brother must work out for himself. No amount of book knowledge or instruction from others can teach him what can be learned only from his own experience and effort. Brethren, this is what the ceremony of initiation should be. There are many more things in this ceremony which we will leave for a later period. Worshipful Master, you can now take over and talk on the subject of the charge in the Northeast. Thank you, brethren, for listening to me patiently.
Worshipful Master, please unmute.
Thanks, virtual brother Dr. Char. I think you set a good context to what first degree ceremony was all about. So what I would be covering today would be the significance of the Northeast charge. So the first degree ritual working has a lot of mystique and charm which is attached to the uninitiated. Because prior to the initiation, the candidate would have actually heard from a variety of sources about masonry, and probably most of which might be half-baked information and also not authentic. Candidates are generally therefore unprepared, and the first degree ceremony comes as a sort of a spiritual revelation, because the candidate finds himself in a completely a different environment which he has never anticipated or experienced, thereby leaving a long lasting impression on him. We often hear on this question, why is the candidate placed on the northeast corner of the lodge? And if you actually look at the ritual book, the northeast charge ritual begins by mentioning it is customary at the erection of all stately and superb edifices to lay the first or foundation stone at the northeast corner of the building. Actually, this foundation or cornerstone of the building is probably as important to the building as a keystone is to an arc. Its task is to bind together at that point two walls of the building, and in due time, it not only serves as a link or binding post, but also as a foundation which needs to be built upon. Historical references, when you check, actually point out that it was a custom of the medieval operative craftsmen from whom we speculative masons are sort of believed to descend, where they actually placed the cornerstone in the northeast corner of the building. So, when you look at history, probably we see that this custom came to them from Jews, who in turn had taken it from the Egyptians, the later holding the belief that northeast was probably the point of the compass from which the sun began its journey when it was first created. Even in Roman times, the north was considered the place of darkness, and this symbolism seems to have been adopted by Freemasonry. In fact, the candidate is often told that there are three lesser lights which are situated in east, south, and west, but actually there is no mention of the north. Even if you come to Hinduism, the Vastu Shastra, which is a traditional Indian system of architecture, which describes the principle of design, layout, measurements, etc., actually was designed with various components to harmonize the movement of sun and the daily human cycle, which is according to the rotation of the earth and the position of the sun through the days. So it is noticed that the 24 hours in a day is divided into 8 parts, representing the 8 cardinal directions, and the nature of each activity in a building reflected the quality of each compass direction. It was observed that houses that were not properly aligned or did not have sense of orientation gave rise to restlessness, misfortune, and sickness. And out of the 8 compass directions, the northeast, known as the Ishanya or the God's corner in Vastu, has a very special importance, because the sun rises from the east, moves towards the north, and sets in the west. Hence, the early morning rays are very important, and it is considered very auspicious if the building or the land is able to receive the sunlight in the morning. The northeast direction is also regarded as highly surcharged with divine energies as well as very sacred. Hence, if you actually notice in many homes, this corner is used as a prayer area. So, the newly admitted apprentice is placed in the northeast corner because he figuratively represents the cornerstone of the lodge. It is while he is in this corner that he will receive those lessons on which he will build his future moral and Masonic edifice. Further, it is here that he is given 2 choices of direction to travel. If he decides to go north, that is, should he decide not to continue in his travels in Masonic knowledge, then all he can expect is to find making of his own darkness. He will never know all the light that can be conferred in the lodge. If he elects to travel eastward, he journeys towards enlightenment and wisdom, which can make him the perfect upright man and a mason who can stand erect and true. Thus, it is here the new entered apprentice is expected to construct his spiritual temple. To actually recap one's initiation, which also Dr. Char mentioned briefly, we would recall the manner in which we were prepared for being initiated. The clothes we wore were symbolic of our indigent circumstances and our being deprived of all valuables. It was actually to depict one as poor and penniless, the significance of which is duly explained in the Northeast Charge, which is also sometimes referred as the charity lecture, which challenged, have you anything to give in the cause of charity? We were actually deliberately prevented from accepting the challenge as we were deprived of all valuables prior to our entering the lodge. The charity, which is inculcated in the northeast corner, is something wider and deeper and grander than the casual dispensing of pecuniary help. It demonstrated that charity comes from the heart and is a way of life. It may take the form of your time, your energy, your friendship, as your circumstances of life may permit. And it's not just financial assistance. If we take the other meaning of the word, love towards our fellow men, we see the whole plan of masonry revealed in a moment, and where I suggest could the plan be more fittingly unfolded than where the foundation stone of all stately and superb edifices is laid. An old book on Freemasonry lays it down that the three principal steps of the ladder that reaches from earth to heaven are faith, hope, and charity, of which I believe charity possesses the highest and most distinguished rank. And the reason for this will be evident, also says the author. In faith and hope, the world may disagree, but all mankind's concern is charity. And let us be charitable in all things, ready to render every kind office of mercy that occasion may require. We can therefore conclude that the placement between north and east is to teach us we will face many choices while we build our temple, our spiritual temple, I mean. Our direction should be towards the light, and as our brothers may help us, we are able to help them. Thank you, brethren, for patiently listening. I will open up the floor for discussion on both the first degree as well as on the significance of Northeast Charge to some of our senior brethren. So the floor is open.
Worshipful Master, may I come in at this stage, please?
Please go ahead, Worshipful Brother Dr. Char.
First of all, thank you for a really very nice paper. Thank you. I appreciated it very much. And I hope you will send a copy of it to me.
Sure,
now, what
Dr.
I would like to add is that the first degree, usually we say that the second degree is the most important. But to me, the first degree is more important because it is in the first degree that the candidate is born into Freemasonry. And if you read the ritual in detail and more carefully, you will find that it tells the candidate all that is expected of him as a Freemason. The second and third degree are more about the philosophy and the symbolism of Freemasonry. So in that sense, the first degree is a very important one, and I think you have brought out some of it beautifully, Worshipful Master. Thank you.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Dr. Char. I would like some of the senior brethren like Worshipful Brother Ramesh Bambani, Worshipful Brother Karsab Dadachandji, etc., if they could add their thoughts on first degree ritual as well as on the Northeast Charge. We'll be happy to hear your thoughts, sir. So, Worshipful Brother Karsab Dadachandji, if you would like to go, you can unmute and speak. You'll have to unmute.
It is, I think I have unmuted now. It was so deep, actually. Dr. Char's lecture was so deep. I think I need time to contemplate more on what he has said before I can make any comment on that. So I'm still trying to digest the amount of shock, but I'm still trying to digest his perspective before I can put forward any view on this. So I would suggest to let someone else probably have a say, and then maybe we can join into the conversation.
Sure, Worshipful Brother Karsab. Worshipful Brother Ramesh Bambani, would you like to say something? You'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, I have just unmuted. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, sir.
So, well, to be very honest, I have just come as a more of an audience rather than I came prepared to participate into it. But nonetheless, you see, the Northeast Charge, the very first thing is said that it is the place where you raise the building. So I think it becomes very important for that newly made brother when you tell him that all superb edifices, their foundation is at this point. So in that sense, the very first thing possibly a new brother may learn that he is here to raise a foundation in the masonry. And that is probably why we tell him that we place him in the northeast part of the lodge. As you have already said, what is the importance of a northeast corner? You have rightly said, especially it is related to where the sun rises, especially in the northern hemisphere, because most of the civilization that we know or we study had grown in the northern hemisphere. So that is why it has that kind of a, I think, importance or connection to the northeast corner. And of course, you see, the lot of talk that we have in this charge is related to charity, because we kind of is instigated by the junior deacon to give something for the cause of charity. And sadly, he has nothing. But then he is told, have you had anything? Would you give it freely? And he says, yes. So that is a kind of instigation, giving a birth to a thought that what we do, what is masonry about. So that is a kind of, you can say something, injecting something into a candidate when he's very new about this word charity. So it goes deep into the mind of the candidate, I believe, because that is the first exposure of the candidate. So this word charity at the first stage, this is what we believe in. As you rightly said, brother, there can be difference in faith and hope. Person can differ from region to region, even in the same faith, but there is no dispute about the word charity, right? So charity is I think, the center. And this is what is the thrust, I believe, in the Northeast Church. Because you disrobe him, you take everything away from him, and then you try to sort of instigate, give us something for the charity. And this kind of a situation makes a deep impression on the mind of a person. Because when he's placed in a peculiar situation and you tell him to do something which he doesn't know, and you tell him what about it is all, so that creates a kind of a different psychological impression. And possibly this reveals, or this tells him what we are here about. What is all this about? That is about the charity. So I think that is the crux. That is the crux why a Northeast charge is. This is a small thing, or whatever my interpretation I can have. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much, Worshipful Brother Bambani. I think though you came unprepared, but it shows, senior Masons, have full command on the subject. And I think it was a very excellent explanation you have given. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Brother, Worshipful Master, can I just slightly build on what Brother Bambani has just mentioned?
Please, sir. Please go ahead.
I just want to put forward one point which I'm sure the senior brethren would know, but I'm not sure if the junior brethren might know about. We say when we give the Northeast charge, the right foot, left foot across the lodge, right foot down the lodge. Pay attention to the worshipful master. The question is, when he's standing in that position, it can be pretty uncomfortable with his left foot pointing towards the south and the right foot pointing down towards the west, and then twist his body to look at the master's chair. Uh, there is a reason why we have put it in the. There is a reason why we have got this left foot down the right. He could have just been asked to stand. I mean, at ease, like I mean, okay, so you are in that corner now. Just stand there. Why in this particular posture, with one foot down the lodge and the other one across the lodge? Well, the answer lies. Or should I just pause for a minute and ask some of our junior brethren if they know what the answer is?
So, Brother
Okay,
Suyo, Brother Sushil, Brother Ankit.
Doesn't matter. Let me tell you this. In days gone by, they used to have these big ashlas which are placed in the lodge, the rough ashla and the perfect ashla. And the whole masonry, therefore, is a journey of the individual from the rough ashla to the perfect ashla. The ashla, of course, is a block of stone which fits into a wall. But I'm not saying that every person has to be considered as going from one stone to another. The rough ashla, of course, I'm sure many of us know, represents us in our absolutely ignorant state, and we are moving towards the perfect ashla as we go through our journey in masonry. We may never reach the perfect ashla because perfection is just not attainable. That is something only for God to attain, which comes up in a much later stage in masonry. But the whole idea is he is at that point of time in his ignorance equivalent to the rough ashla, which was placed in the northeast part of the lodge, and it was placed on that black and white pavement with its sides aligned along the lines of that pavement. So therefore, he had one foot on one side of the ashla, and the other foot, which is on the. If you can see my hand, it's like this. Can you see the hands? Okay, yes. So we have one. You have a block. It's something like this. You've got a block out here. So he is having his one foot across one end of the block, which let us say is from across the lodge, and the other one is down the lodge. So, and I don't think I'm giving away too much when I say that in the second degree, the person is going to be put in the southeast corner for a somewhat similar charge, which I don't want to get into right now, because I do know at least one person who is only a entered apprentice, Suyog Kulkarni. But there again, he'll be standing next to the perfect ashla. So this is the progress in his Masonic journey that is intended to be illuminated to him. I just thought I would share this little bit so that we know why we have to stand in that particular posture when we are receiving that charge, the northeast charge from whoever is delivering. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Worshipful Brother Karsab.
Can I come in, please?
Yes, Worshipful Brother Dr. Char.
Brother Karsab, I very much appreciated that, because what you said seems to be very correct. Because when you give the northeast charge, he is the rough ashla, and when you give him the southeast charge, he is the perfect ashla, almost.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
There's just one point I'd like to say. Today, if you go into our lodges at Freemasons Hall or in many other lodges elsewhere also, though I'm not so sure in Nagpur, but you will find the ashlas are pretty small. I mean, even less than 6 inches along a side, perhaps, maybe 5 inches or so. 5 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches would be the size of the ashla, at least in Freemasons Hall in Mumbai. If I'm not mistaken, in Nagpur, I've seen a larger ashla, but I could be wrong. It could be either in Nagpur or in some other place where in the Indian Constitution, when I was visiting them with our district grandmaster as part of his deputation. But I must say one thing, that in those days, the ashla which was in the lodge was large enough and heavy enough for it to be suspended on a kind of a tripod. And then when it is brought out into for the working, it was then lowered from the tripod and put onto that corner. Not that 5 inch by 5 inch by 5 inch block that we see in today. This is just a small representation. So there, the ashlar would be more like, I don't know, maybe in terms of cubits, it may be 1 cubit in each direction for all I know. So there we are, and our cubit is actually from the length of the hand from the tip of the finger to the elbow, about this much, about this much to here. So maybe it was about that size. I don't know really how big it was, but it was certainly not the small thing which we today have as a more or less like a symbolic decorative piece in our lodges. But there we are. That was the reason why we had the duff and the perfect ashlar. And they were large enough for that man to stand with his feet along the sides of the ashlar. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Worshipful Master, if I may add.
Please, Worshipful Brother Manji.
In some of the lodges in England, when they give the northeast charge, the rough ashlar is actually placed in the northeast corner, and the candidate is made to stand in a position whereby his one leg and both the legs are square and around the rough ashlar.
Wow, that's interesting.
And probably, am I muted or can you hear me? You can hear me. Yeah. And probably the junior deacon stands right next to the worshipper, right next to the candidate. Probably, I mean, this is just a speculation, of course, that in that awkward position that he is standing, he may not lose his balance.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I have a feeling. And then he actually goes around and then he faces the worshipper, he faces the candidate and says, do you have anything to give in the cause of charity? And things like that. And as you very correctly said, Brother Worshipful Master, the whole crux of the charge is, of course, to open the candidate's eyes to the role of charity in the development of his personality right through his Masonic journey. And the role of charity is, of course, as I think you did mention also, is not just in a pecuniary manner, but basically the way I see what charity is charity is giving something, whatever, without expectation of return. Absolutely without expectation of return. If you say, oh, I'm going to, if it's not an investment that you are making to somebody, you are just going to give it away. That's all there is to it. Whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's even an act of kindness, whether it's even just helping an old person across the street, it is still very much, in a way, an act of charity, because you are not expecting anything in return for that little act that you are doing for someone else. A little bit of service. That's all.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Karsa. I would like to further open it up in case any of the younger brethren have any questions. I'm sure if you have, you can please raise your hands and start asking. Else, I will start requesting some of the senior brethren to give their views. Very Worshipful Brother Venkat, if you can share your views. You'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Worshipful Master. Really very interesting paper by Dr. Char. I had to step out and take a quick shower because I was sweating the whole day. And your paper also, Worshipful Master, was very interesting. Karsab's bringing out the aspect of standing left and right was very this. In most religions, the ceremony of initiation is always shrouded in secrecy. So, for example, as a Tamil Brahmin, when the Gayatri mantra is, Upadesha, mantra Upadesham as we call it, the giving of the, Upadesh of the bestowing of the Gayatri mantra to the everybody sitting there, but the father, the priest, and the child are covered in a dhoti, and then the mantra is, narrated by the father. In most other religions also the same element of secrecy is maintained around the initiation. There was a difference between people who are spiritual and people therefore who have got a better, what I will say, moral and social fiber in society, and those who are not endorsed. And the people who were initiated into religion were considered to be what I can say, more evolved, and they wanted to maintain that secrecy. But today, very often we get asked, "Oh, what is the secret?" When we this open house, almost everybody says, secrecy, 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 and we give a very commercial explanation. Like I say, will you go to Coca-Cola company? Will they give you the secrets of Coca-Cola? Or if you go to Godrej board meeting, will they give you the board meeting minutes? So everybody has secrecy. We say that. We don't talk about the religious, spiritual aspect of secrecy, which is there in almost all religions. And I would like other brethren to talk about how baptism is done in Christianity and how somebody is initiated into Judaism by Abel and so on. Thank you, Vashul Master.
Thank you, very worshipful brother Venkat. Can I request worshipful brother Suresh Dikshit ji, if you can share some views on first degree? Worshipful brother Suresh Dikshit ji, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Worshipful brother Suresh Dikshit ji, can you hear us? You'll have to unmute. Oh, I think he's had some issue. So can we ask some of the younger brethren to share their views about what they heard so far? Brother Ankit.
So, brother, brother Kulkarni, I think. Please go ahead.
No, brethren, I believe you were the first to talk. I might have interrupted. Please.
Okay, brother Ankit, you can go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say that when the worshipful master brought out regarding the northeast charge, and he mentioned Vastu Shastra. So I believe in Vastu, even so, our lords also say the entrance is south facing, and even in Vastu, when you look at the home, they say that the south facing home brings about an increase in the wealth of the person. This considered the second best after the east facing house, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. So I believe there also we have some kind of similarity between different religions as well as different modalities like Vastu Shastra, where there's similar points in both of them.
True. In fact, even in Vastu Shastra, the foundation stone is laid at northeast. When you start off the building, you can look at that. Yes. So in fact, all the religions and all the faiths have a similarity there. And that is a very interesting aspect, which even when I did my reading, I realized.
Right. I just realized that and shed light on the same. I just want to point that out.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Brother Suyog.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. While we were all, from a hearing and as I entered, apprentice, at the time of initiation, while we were in the waiting and the preparations in the temple were at best. What happens is the mindset, is like there are so many questions where what is going to be, unfolded. While we were talking about directions, as a blindfolded, it becomes a more, what do you say, psychological journey. And then as we are led to the temple and the enlightening experience happens. I believe that that's a transition which I have, as the only I can remember and I can visualize those aspects. So maybe if there could be some kind of unfortunately, because of this COVID, there has been no physical one-to-one meetings. But thanks to the case of that, we have been given so much of readings. But yes, that experience, that divine experience, is more of personal experience.
Absolutely, brother.
Impact as well.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Worshipful Master, good evening. This is Colonel Bhaya here.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, sir. Worshipful Master, very worshipful brethren, worshipful brethren. I just like to add one input which I thought, of course, I'm very new in it, but this is an insight which I got some time back. First, a small story about Bill Gates. When he was not the famous Bill Gates and he was just an ordinary person, he would be walking across the airport, and because of lack of change, he would request the newspaper vendor if he could have the newspaper. This went on for about a week or so, and every time he said, "I will pay you once I get the amount." As years passed by, he became the Bill Gates, and he went to hunt again back to that vendor who had obliged him with those newspapers, and he says, "Look, I've got this, now I can give you whatever help you want." So he says, "Your help today is not the type of help which I gave you when you were in want of need, because I was making ends meet and I gave my little bit to you. Whereas today, even if you give me so much, it will not make any difference to you." So that bit of benevolence or the charity, like the word as its meaning says, is voluntary giving help to those who need from something which you have the minimum. Now, in my terms, I would say time is of absolute importance, absolute premium. We have, let's say, 80 years to live. Go a little beyond, a little bonus, 100 years. The best way, rather the easiest way, is to give, "Ye mere 500 rupees, ye mere 1000 rupees, ye mere 10,000. I've done my bit, I've done my charity." But the actual charity would come if that person spends a little time with someone in helping out in a person in need, is what I have in my way, my point of view. I may be overstepping, but I think this is in my perspective and my perception. Thank you.
Very interesting thoughts, brother. Thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate you joining and sharing your thoughts.
Worshipful Master, may I come in, please?
Yeah, Dr. Char.
From the what I've heard from my brethren, particularly from Brother Karsas, it appears that my paper may have been a little confusing. I am not surprised about it, because when I first read it, I myself did not know what I was reading about properly. Because you see, I was looking at it from a different angle, from the ceremonial side of it, not from the ritual side of it. And if it has been a bit confusing, I am sorry about it, and I hope I will be able to explain it a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Dr. Char.
Doctor, may I come in here, please, the Worshipful Master?
Please go ahead, sir.
Dr. Char, I didn't mean your paper was confusing. I just meant it was too deep for someone to grasp everything at the very first hearing. So I wouldn't say I was confused, but I just thought that I was not adequately prepared to digest the depth of your thoughts on the first hearing itself. So it was. I would say one should mull over these things perhaps, and maybe what we can do is at the next meeting of your Lord's Worshipful Master, we could just spend a little more time so that we can express our thoughts about Dr. Char's address also on the first degree.
Sure.
I think it was a very, very what shall we say, deep address, which needs to be really digested and understood before one can. Because you see, any comment right now at this point would be like passing a judgment. And let me be very honest, most of us out here are in no position to pass judgment on an erudite person of the caliber of Dr. Char. To be very, very honest with you, a person who has written so many papers, who has read out so many of his own papers, who's done his own research. I still remember a couple of papers which he had submitted in the Square and Compasses Lodge, and which I had the honor of reading out for him. And they were also extremely, extremely informative themselves. So I think one could take this little point and carry it forward to the next meeting.
Absolutely. In fact, I had a telephonic call with Worshipful Brother Dr. Char. I think, brethren, can we all, fill our glasses, charge our glasses?
Worshipful Master,
yes.
I would just like, if you don't mind, I would just like to thank Brother Karsad for his comments. Thank you very much, Brother Karsad.
Yeah, they are the honest truth, Dr. Char. They are the honest truth.
Can I request everyone to charge their columns, please? It's already 8:56. In the next few minutes, we will have at 9 o'clock, we'll have the toast for absent brethren.
Very worshipful brother, if you could please put on your timer. Thank you. Brother Venkat, can you please put on your timer? Very worshipful brother Venkat, can you please put on your timer for us?
Yes, we are 3 minutes away.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Sushil Chandar, would you like to say something?
This is, I have a question actually. Nothing to do with what we did today, but there was this Excel sheet which was going around, and I realized that it is some kind of a contest. I may have missed some inputs there, but I thought it would be a good idea for us to learn few of those long passages and read up here. And but I realized that it is some contest. Is that true? Is it some contest?
Yeah, Brother Sushil, we are planning a ritual contest once the lodge, formally starts meeting. So we were expecting when we started off. So at this point in time, it is in abeyance. But Brother Venkat, you would like to add something on that?
What is the question, Sushil? Yeah, it is a ritual working festival, not a contest. Okay. So the idea is to all of us to come together and celebrate a festival of ritual working. Okay. Yes, in order to make it interesting and in order to keep some intensity into that exercise, there are some prizes to be given out, but it's not a contest. It's a festival.
Okay, because I saw that some of the people presenting along us newbies are people like you.
Yeah, so everybody can present and
Okay.
everybody can do. There is a marking system. There will be judges, and there will be weightage for each piece of ritual. We have
Okay.
put so there is a weighted system, and there is a this on word perfectness, delivery, tonality, etc., etc. And it's a very neutral way of this. So it doesn't mean that
Brother
if I am
Venkat,
here,
sorry
I'm
to
expecting.
interrupt.
Yeah, I know,
Very
I know.
quick in a,
No. Vimal, don't worry. My eye is there on the clock.
okay.
Yeah, I'm a race director. I flag off on time. Don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
exactly. That's what.
Yeah. So anybody. I mean, anybody who does well can this. And brethren are expected to take pieces of ritual that they don't know. So everybody's got an handicap there.
Okay.
Outstanding, brethren. Master, will you take the toast today, please? Worshipful
I will
Master.
request the DOC to take, please.
Okay. Worshipful Master, upstanding, please. Brethren, we remember our brethren who are not here today, whatever their compulsions. A substantial amount of them are involved in duty at the COVID front. So we remember them and we drink to their health. Absent brethren.
To
To the
absent.
absent
To
brethren.
absent brethren.
Thank you, Virtual Brother Bimal.
Thank you, Worshipful Master. Please continue with your conversation, Brother Venkat.
Brother Christabel, would you like to say something about the first
No,
degree and your
1 minute, 1 minute.
experience?
Let me just complete for what I was telling Sushil Chandar.
Yeah,
Is
please.
that everybody? I mean, you can take a piece that's just 200, 300 words, and you can deliver it well, and you might get ranked. The question is not about whether you did well or whether you won or you lost. The question is you should enjoy the thing. It's more of a festival than a contest.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, Brother Christabel.
Well, just one small comment. For me, it has been very, very interesting, no? This link between the cornerstone and charity. And the same way as the cornerstone is the first stone of the structure and how the entire building is supported by it, no? Is the same way charity should be the foundation of the newly joined Freemason. And we were talking also about the link between the cornerstone and religion. No? Then I remember some words of the gospel. It's something like, I don't remember the exact words, but it's something like the stone that was rejected by the architects is now the cornerstone. No? And for me, this is very linked with Freemasonry. Freemasonry gives a different perspective, very different from the secular view. No? And the more we walk on the Masonic path, it's the more awareness we get from this different point of view. And regarding this ritual working festival, like a nice coincidence, my piece of ritual is the Northeast Church, no? So it's a good coincidence. And finally, I would like to ask Dr. Char and you, Worshipful Master, if you can share this paper for further reflection. You can share it on the group or...
Sure. We will share our papers to you as well as to the group so that, whatever we have learned, I think that's the best way to sort of decimate the information. We'll definitely do that.
Worshipful Master, can I come in?
Yep.
See, just a little note about my paper. It might have been a little difficult to understand for the simple reason that I looked at the first degree from a different angle, which we rarely look at, from the way the candidate enters and behaves or reacts to the ritual. That is why I looked at it from the ceremonial side, and that is possibly which is hardly looked at.
Absolutely.
And that is why possibly it's difficult to understand. Thank you, Master.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Char. Can I request Worshipful Brother Vishwa Mohan if he has some thoughts on first degree? and share his views.
Thank you, Virtual Master. Am I audible? My connection is a little poor.
No,
Am
it's
I
good
audible?
today. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Except that, I heard, some excellent talk on Northeast Charge and the importance of the first degree. I have two separate points to talk about. One is a view that, while Northeast Charge really talks about the foundation and the importance of the foundation, and nothing to take that away. In regular practice, we move from, initiation to, racing in just about 3 months. Whether, that whether fast tracking a candidate, through these steps, these three important steps in such quick time, whether it does help in building him as a mason, um, is it better done, or would it be better done if sufficient time gap is given between the 3 degrees, or the three of initiation, passing, and racing? So that's one point. I know that in our lodge, not only the month after we do the initiation, we have a demonstration for him. But I don't know whether that itself is sufficient. I think should the brother who's been initiated go through a period of time as as an initiate, who's been initiated into Freemasonry, absorbing various things, so that he starts building himself up, conditions his mind to charity and all other aspects of Freemasonry, and then goes to the next step of being passed. And that's one point that I wanted to say. The other point that I wanted to say was that on the Northeast Charge itself, somehow I've felt some kind of a disconnect with Northeast Charge. It's purely semantic in the sense we start with Northeast Charge by saying that we are laying a foundation stone and we want to raise, a superb edifice, etc. And then we say that we want to put your principles to a test. All right, by calling on you to act on that, on that virtue, which is charity. Then the whole Northeast Charge is about the importance of charity. Okay, so is it really that just the charity as a, if I'm a person inclined to charity, am I a person of, is that sufficient to raise me as a superstructure? I'm not very sure. So there are so many other aspects, like brotherly love, faith, hope, charity, and so many other aspects. None all those aspects are missed out in the Northeast Charge, but then subsequently brought back in um, charge of initiation. So charge of initiation is a more complete ritual as part of the first degree than the I think the purpose of Northeast Charge is really to emphasize the importance of charity and just that, and not about building a superstructure really in that sense.
Thanks, Vasubodha Vishwa. I think two very important topics, two important points which you are bringing out. And I couldn't agree with you more on the first part, which, where is the candidate getting sufficient time to imbibe all what is being taught. Personally, I think, I got that opportunity because after I became an EA, before I went on to the second degree, it was almost like 6 to 7 months. So I could attend a few more initiation ceremonies. And frankly, I understood much more with each ceremony I attended. So you're right on that aspect. Now, on Northeast Charge, I think you're right. It has got two different aspects, but I think it is still revolving around the whole part of creating a foundation. And the foundation has to be built on all the three aspects: faith, hope, and charity. And you're right, this particular charge dwells more on the charity part. But again, charity as not what a common man thinks about charity. I think that is what is more critical, and I think that's what I think the other senior brother and also sort of alluded. It is not just pecuniary, but it is beyond that. So you're right on both counts. Possibly much
But
more to get into.
Virtual Master, while you may say that charity is a much wider subject, and and can be exercised in many different ways, as one brother said about giving time, but Northeast Charge focuses only on material giving. If there is a person in need, are you willing to give? Is the fundamental, aspect of the Northeast charge. And you're saying that the candidate says that he cannot give, and you ask him if you had, would you give? And he says, yes, I would have. So I mean, in that aspect of the Northeast charge, charity is only about material, giving something in material to a person who has a need.
It's probably an easier way to demonstrate, because material probably we all see, and probably that's my take on it. But I think as we put in many more years in masonry, probably we can dwell into it much more deeper to understand. For an initiate, yes, probably he will look at it that way.
No, for example, you can say charity means being charitable. But being charitable is about being kind. So whether that and charity in that aspect of charity of Northeast charge are the same, I'm not very sure.
We'll open up.
I don't know how Brother Kasab responds to this. I mean, maybe I should just invite him to respond.
Brother Vishwamohan, there is one point I want to respond to, but not on this particular point of charity, but it's something which you mentioned at the beginning of your views, and that is the time frame in which we make the candidate travel from through the 3 degrees which make up our craft masonry. There used to be a brother, I forget his name now, was it Ashley Dinning, if I'm not mistaken, was it his name? Who was from Australia and now he's settled in Canada or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I think was named.
Yeah, that's Ashley Dinning, yes.
Am I right? Yeah, Ashley Dinning. He was once telling me that in Australia, between any 2 successive degrees, there used to be almost a year's gap, where up at the end of that year, a person has to give some kind of a small dissertation as to what he has learned as an entered apprentice, and answer some questions also which are put to him. This is what I vaguely remember him telling me now. I think he told me about 5-6 years ago, perhaps. So I might have misunderstood something, or my memory may not be serving me right. But this is what he had said, that it takes almost a year between 2 successive degrees. Did he say something like that to you all also? I just want to confirm.
Well, I don't recall, but maybe Venkat does. Maybe he said it. But it's quite possible. I think there are some lodges that do practice.
Yes.
1 minute. Can I come in, Usman Master?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, Vishwa, what you said was correct. If you remember, Kasab, I presented a paper in the Lodge of Instruction about Vitruvian lodges or European concept lodges. And Brother Prem Prakash can clarify. In most of Europe, it takes 1 year in every degree. And so it is in his lodge in Australia, which is the Golden Fleece Lodge in Melbourne. They don't pass people just, like every month, one degree, because they feel that the candidate doesn't absorb the learnings in each of those degrees.
Yeah, it's absolutely right, Brother Venkatraman, that here also from 1st to 2nd degree, it takes at least 1 year, and between 2nd and 3rd, at least 2 years. So you don't become a sort of pre-Mason in just 3 months. It takes about 3 to 4 years you become this. And on the way, of course, you learn.
That's interesting.
Correct. So that is that paper, if you remember, Kasab, I presented European concept lodges in the
Yes, I do remember.
Worshipful Master, can I ask one more question, please? Unfortunately, I missed Brother Char's, paper. The reason being I was engaged otherwise. Is it possible to have it somewhere written or something so I can go through it and perhaps
we will
make some?
I will request Worshipful Brother Char to share, and we'll share it.
It is being recorded. It is being recorded, so I can share the video.
Please, if you could do that, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Worshipful Brother Bimal, your thoughts?
See, my thinking is this. We bring in a candidate with his eyes blindfolded. That is to signify or symbolize that he is coming in blind into Freemasonry. He doesn't know what he is getting into. We explain a few things to him. We take him around the lodge. And then we make him stand in the northeast corner with his feet in a square. And then pretty much explain to him that this is what we do. Okay? And this, what we are talking about just now, which is charity, is a very, very important part of Masonry. For us, this is very important. And since you come of your own free will and accord to become one of us, this is what we are drawing your attention to very strongly. Now, on a lighter note, I don't know who it was, somebody said that the charge after initiation contains a lot more information. Now listen, whoever wrote the charge and the northeast charge and the charges and everything had to leave a little bit for every other thing, you know. So maybe he forgot to put in a little bit extra into the northeast charge, and what he forgot to put in there, he put into the charge after initiation. So we are not going to have, you know, what we want in everything. But basically what we are doing is we are teaching the guy we bring in, this is how we do things. And, you know, we'll be happy if you join us, and we'll give you some time. Now, Brother Sushil Chandar has already been a Freemason. It's taken him, I think, 3 years to become a Master Mason. So I have always maintained that we should have a few meetings at least between degrees. And I am of the opinion that if you give them a small informal quiz before we pass them or raise them to the next degree, it would be a good idea. Time need not be of the essence. There will be some who will learn fast. There will be some who will be a little bit slow. So let's say after 2 meetings or 3 meetings, we'll give the chap a chance at the 4th meeting. And the 5th meeting will take him further.
Sure.
This is my thinking, Worshipful Master. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Bimal.
Worshipful Master,
Worshipful Brother Vinod. Dr. Char will just give a few chances to people who are not okay with you.
Please do.
Worshipful Master, may I please be excused now?
Sure. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very interesting evening, very informative and very educative. I'm looking forward to attending more of the lodge meetings in the future.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure having you as a
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Worshipful
Keep well,
Brother
stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you very much. Good night, brethren.
Sure. Good night.
Worshipful Master may be excused too.
Sure. Worshipful Brother Vinod, would you like to say something? Worshipful Brother Vinod, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Worshipful Master, it's a very interesting session I had this evening. Actually, my mother lodge is Excelsior in Khandesh. So I am thankful that I am joining this group today. And even last also I joined. One thing that stuck to my mind, what just now we were discussing, that some gap should be there between the degrees. After first degrees, immediately, instead of 1 month, some more time be left. Now in between, I suppose that we have mentors in lodges. So that mentor may discuss these issues with the candidates, just initiated candidates.
Yes.
So that whatever I had done during first degree, I may not understand at that time. So unless someone's express me and gives interpretation of all this. So if mentors can do this, I think it will be better, so that the candidate will be more interested in further part of the rituals. If every time if we explain them what they have done and what actually the interpretation in masonry about it. So thank you, Worshipful Master, for giving me an opportunity to express my views. Thank you.
Thank you for joining in, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brother, there is one brother, Brother Satha Farid, who has not spoken yet.
That's Tempton Turkey, I think.
Tempton. He's put a different ID there. That's why I was wondering who it was.
Farida, I think he's coming on his wife's name.
Worshipful Brother Tempton, you would like to say something?
Tempton, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I have unmuted myself. This was a very interesting session. I liked Dr. Char's and your speech on the Northeast charge as well. It was very informative and nothing more to add from my side. I essentially concur with the other brethren that there should be more meetings between the initiation and the passing, and between passing and the raising.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
When I am on this, can I say good night to all of you? And I would like to leave.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Worshipful Brother Kazad, would you like to have some closing remarks?
Sir, I'm only brother, sir, not worshipful as yet. Thank you very much, sir. Worshipful Brother Vishwa, sir, you're there?
No, he just left, unfortunately.
Oh, because my question was towards him, actually. Never mind. I just had something which came to my mind was when he said it is more on materialistic. Like to emphasize on my point on time. In the working, it says, like its sister mercy, it blesses both one who gives and one who receives. Now, you can be blessed when you are in requirement, and also when you have a little and you're giving away a part of it which you yourself need.
Absolutely.
Worshipful Master.
So that is one thing which I was wanting to complete on.
Worshipful Master.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Bimal.
See, charity, the way we show it in the law, is the easiest way to demonstrate it, and hence that I cannot talk about charity with regard to time or charity with regard to my thoughts. The easiest way to demonstrate charity is material. And that is what we do in the lodge. We are telling the guy charity is the most vital aspect of Freemasonry. Please understand that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Also, I think what Brother Kazad is mentioning is very
point well taken, sir.
Yeah, what Brother Kazad is also saying has a very important part, that it is not just receiving, but it's not just giving, but it's also receiving, which makes this whole process a big thing. And acknowledgement that it's for both the recipient as well as the donor.
Absolutely. And as an aside, I will probably have to look it up myself. There is a chapter in Merchant of Venice where Portia, in her speech as judge, says the quality of charity is twice blessed. It blesseth him that receives and him that gives. So I don't know whether Portia...
You're right, sir. It is.
Shakespeare said it first, or it was there in Freemasonry first. So we'll have to look it up. But it can only be demonstrated with regard to material terms. You cannot demonstrate charity in abstract terms.
And especially when it's a ritual, it's a drama. We are trying to enact it. Yeah, correct.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So I think thanks for this very, very interesting session. I think personally I enjoyed it. I think we heard a lot from various speakers. Dr. Char, as usual, comes out with a very different perspective. I think, Dr. Char, we thank you for setting the tone up. And this was something which you have always been, wanting us to do. I think these are all high quality papers, which I think we as Lodge Silvery Dawn are proud of. I think all our senior brethren from the district also participated. It was a real good blessing for us and a very knowledgeable session. I think I personally enjoyed it, and I'm sure all of you did too. Very worshipful Brother Venkat, closing remarks, and then we can probably close for the day. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Nothing much from my side, Vishal Master. I just want to thank all the brethren who attended, both from our lodge and from the other lodges. We try to keep this every Friday, and some paper or the other is presented. Last Friday we presented the history of the Freemason temple, which I believe many people found interesting. Then on Sunday, of course, we gave the square steps, a virtual tour of the city. So, Virtual Master, if you want to decide somebody for next Friday, you can take the decision and then we can close.
Yeah, very much, Brother Venkat. I think you had a paper in mind which you wanted to present.
Yeah, that was the Amir of Afghanistan.
Yeah, so if you could, and that's something, again, an interesting thing. And also, I think you also had another topic on importance of rituals, which you wanted to speak at some point in time.
Correct.
So I would leave it to you which topic you want to take, so that we can already, so you'll have sufficient time also to get your thoughts together.
The Amir of Afghanistan is ready, absolutely ready. The importance of rituals is something that I have to put my thoughts together and prepare. But
sure.
Worshipful Master, if I may.
Please.
We need not limit ourselves to meeting just once a week.
Too much of everything is also harmful for health.
Yes. I was about to say
within the circle of your desire.
I was about to say meeting once a week is becoming too much.
Once a week is just about right.
Absolutely.
Any too often is too much, you can't get hold of all things. And more than less than a week is just not possible.
I agree. I think once a week would be ideal. At least till we open up our lodges. I think we are getting to hear a lot of senior brethren, and frankly, I think we should open it up to have more visitors. Today all the visitors gave their thoughts. That's the best part we can. I do not know when we'll have a district meeting now. This is the best way to virtually meet all the district brethren.
Let me just tell you that please go to your respective lodges and tell your brother to attend next Friday. It will be very interesting.
Oh, you're talking only to Silvery Dawn guys just now. Maybe only
No. Ramesh Bombani is there. Vinod Patel is there. Kaisad is there. Others are there.
Sorry. Excellent idea.
I assure you.
Worshipful Master.
Yes, Dr. Char.
No, I just like to end with this meeting because you see the point is we had quite an interesting talk on the first degree ritual. As you said, as it came out today, that we should wait for some time for the candidates to absorb the first degree before we go to the second degree. If you remember, I've always been telling the Lords that we should give the ritual after the first ritual is done, so that the candidate reads it, and then he should be coming back to ask us questions or tell us what he has understood about the first degree. Because the first degree is the most important. You see, he enters the ideas of Freemasonry for the first time. And also in the first degree, you are told what is expected of you. As I said, the second and the third degree are more symbolism and everything. So I think personally, we have been giving the excuse that if we don't pass the candidate quickly, we will be finding it that he might leave. So I think, frankly, let us give a little time, as I've always been suggesting. Thank you, Worshipful Master. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Char. Thank you. I hear you on that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining once again.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.